Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 33rd episode of the Sensational ArtaCast with sensational hosts. We have 2 weeks, I think. It's till Worlds, so there's not too much. If I would be a participant of the Worlds, I would start getting nervous now, I guess, because like the meta shifts like every day, and you kind of can't prepare that good if a meta shifts like that much every day. And yeah, for me, like a lot of stuff seems to be viable. What is most of the time I think a good sign for a meta game. How do you feel, LD? You tested a good bunch of decks, I think, and we spoke about a good amount of decks. And how do you feel now in the meta game right now?
I feel pretty good. I tried to sort of articulate quite a complex feeling to some people this week where I don't think the metagame is bad, because at the highest level it feels like a lot of things are very, very playable, which is great. That's kind of what you want. Is like there is the diversity, but yet even within that, like there are somehow like a lot of bad feelings, and I was chatting to some people like trying to unpack that, like why can I look at a metagame that has like on paper is reasonably healthy, and yet I'm feeling so bad all the time about like the way these games are going. um and I think it comes down to like a lot of matchups feel a bit polarized. Each deck kind of has like at least one pretty polarized matchup that you're just really crossing your fingers, and you hope not to see. And that was where we landed, was that there is a lot of hope going on, and I don't like that because I want agency. I want to sit down and feel like any game is winnable, and through my decisions get there, not to be starting every game thinking, oh, if I see ink steel card play Cinderella, like it's mostly over because I'm playing this particular deck that's super soft to Amber Steel, for example. But yeah, there's a lot of like hoping going on, um, which is leading to some bad feelings. But as I say, at a really high level, it's a pretty balanced and open metagame. And I think today we'll probably get a little bit into like looking at things a level up and considering what are all the questions being asked of you as a player right now, that you can realistically expect to have to answer across the course of a tournament, so that you can work out the best ways to build different decks. Because I think if you're looking for a best deck right now, you're probably not going to find one. Things are moving, like you say, really fast. And yeah, I don't want to be looking for like a silver bullet best deck that is some undiscovered incredible thing in the format. I want to be thinking purely about what are each of these decks forcing us to do, and how can we best respond to as many of them as possible through our deck building and deck choice. So that's where my head's at the moment. And to reach that conclusion, I played a lot of Amber Steel aggro. Um, I thought Amber Steel aggro was just the best deck in the format. I won a huge number of games with it. I felt very little while doing it. It was a largely it was largely an emotionless experience where both the wins and losses washed over me like the waves, and I was just I was a passenger to the deck. I was just there. I wanted to see how far I could push it. I put by at the end of Sunday, so we were recording on Monday. As of the end of Sunday, I was two of the top 10 decks, two of the top 10 players in the leaderboard that doesn't exist. But if it did exist, two of them would have been me, and purely with Amber Steel. It was a pretty empty experience, but it's given me some good conclusions about the metagame as a whole. So yeah, I want to hear your perspective as well on sort of what everything you've seen from this weekend, and where do you want to start? Because I think we've probably got a lot of different insights to run through.
Yeah. Maybe to respond to that, I think like
Yeah.
what you experience could yeah, I mean, like probably many players. I saw like some German players, like or even some content creators, like tend to want to ship on another boat, like play another game. Don't do it, okay? Thank you. Because like I think the hope is like you hope too much. I think if you like think another game is very much better or something, like these I think the joy of card games surround a bit about illusions we make to ourselves. Like we always like for example, every time a new format comes, we think, oh, now we break it, now we find the deck, and then we feel good into every matchup, and we beat everyone that's at least worse than us. And I think that will be an illusion forever. And of course, like you said, it's a bit it can be better and worse. Like for example, the oppressive stuff that's running around right now can go to an extent that it's not healthy anymore. Like for example, I remember, like for example, set 2, I just remember that there were nearly no oppressive stuff you could do. The most oppressive stuff were, at least in the early game, like first 3 turns, the most oppressive stuff was maybe like still Cindy Storm, or maybe like Ursula 3-drop stuff. But other than that, like we just played Snake on 2, and then we played maybe Mini Mouse Surfer was the most oppressive stuff, but it's far away from what we do now. And I think these oppressive stuff can lead to more non-games than if they didn't exist, of course, yeah. But if they don't exist, it's a very control-heavy meta, and then it's maybe also not the best experience for many players. So we need oppressive stuff, but we need the right amount, and we surely want to have the least non-games that can possibly be. But it's still a card game. We that's what I just want to point out. It's a card game, and yeah. But there is still room to improve. I mean, like we had like this crazy cool purple steel deck winning like the big tournament yesterday. How many player was it? I don't know exactly. Was more than 100, I guess. Like, and there were
it was pretty big. The final lists aren't all shared from it yet, so we don't have the player numbers. I think it was over 200.
That's pretty impressive.
Pretty big, big prize pool, and a lot of good players, a lot of well-known players.
And a crazy, innovative purple steel list made it with the broom stuff. I mean, people were overreacting a bit. It's not too crazy. It has this Gen Seed, which can sometimes just replace itself. What's good enough, and if it ever quests for 3, I think it's pretty big. And the rest is just random dock purple steel things. The only thing that sorry.
I was just gonna say it's a bit charitable to call this brooms. Like it's more of a brooms deck than a deck that doesn't play Yensid and the 2-cost Steel Broom, for example. But like when the rumor got out that like, oh, there's an undefeated purple steel brooms deck going into day 2 of this tournament, I think everyone imagined like Shift Mickey, that sort of thing. Like how many brooms are in this deck? But it's actually there's 8 brooms in the deck. Yeah. It's 8. They are there to like mostly turn on Yensid, which is a really good replace itself 2-drop. For a lot of these aggressive responses of taking out a daisy sort of thing, you're mainly looking to just like grab something on some 2-drop or 1-drop that you've played, and any of them that replace themselves on the way in or out are great options for that, because you're going to just be able to execute this line where you retake board control without giving up. It's a fast response to an aggressive opening that doesn't leave you high and dry on card advantage. So yeah, I can totally see the reasoning. It makes sense to me, and it's a cool list.
Yeah, I think I like it. It seems like was very afraid of Diablos, like
Yeah.
4 brooms and 3 fire the cannons. But fire the cannons, that's what I said to some other guys earlier, could really be the difference maker in a lot of matchups. I think if you like fire cannons, the Syndiote, it's such a tempo gain. If you like turn 2, fire the cannons plus a 1-drop or something. The only thing I'm really surprised is that it's that less bounce cards, because like I think against some decks you really need to Pete lock, and for example Steel Song. I think he dodged Steel Song if I heard that correctly. He dodged Steel Song very good with this list, because I think this is I think it's kind of soft to Steel Song, I could guess. I don't know, but that's at least what I would guess. Yeah, but other than that, yeah, cool list. It's aggressive. It's like also against red blue. I think it's a close matchup, but a lot of replace themselves cards are here, and that's what I usually don't like to see that much. So yeah, I can totally see this. Of course, you have to be a bit lucky with matchups, because the list got really bashed. But I think you could. In Germany, we say like success speaks for itself. You know, like if you win the tournament, there must be something. There must be a glimmer of potential here. Yeah. So I have totally respect for that, and I think it's a very, very cool list. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like you say, against something slower like red blue, for example, you can just there are so many things here that just replace themselves that you can just start going wild and letting them clear the board. Now that those decks don't have access to high rem, they really struggle to maintain card advantage while clearing the board. Rightly so. You shouldn't be able to do both those things as easily as they were in the past. But yeah, it's just like this continuous, unending stream of like, all right, now answer these 3 little dogs that draw a card. Oh, you did? Cool. Well, I'll just redraw more than you, and next turn, here's 3 more. Go again. Yeah, I can see it sort of how its different game plans can line up. But yeah, like you say, Steel Song for me would be a worry. Like if you don't find a Pete, I don't see how you ever win that matchup. And yeah, Steel Song for me is something in general that's really rising, as it always does. But I think it's I would be concerned about that particular matchup. But yeah, I think you're completely right. Like everything, as I kind of said at the top of the recording, is everything has like one nasty matchup that you do just have to hope to avoid. I don't think you're going to find something that fills every gap. It's the real sort of skill in deck selection right now. You have to think about, okay, if the gap, if there isn't anything that sort of has no gap, then which gap do I think is the right one to have today based on what people are going to be playing? So I think there's a lot of expression there, and this something like this going into a tournament like CCS that it won looks like a great call for the day. Like I didn't see a huge amount of. Obviously, it's had a nice path through the field, and they've executed that choice well. So yeah, congrats to Christopher. I think it's a really nice bit of innovation and a great result, a really solid pick for the day.
Yeah. Also something you really don't want to face with green purple that much.
No, and there's probably something to be said there about. For me personally, I've found like a few of the decks that are around at the moment a little bit tricky. So that's why I've been experimenting with some different things. So a couple of weeks' time, we wait for green purple to rotate back through. But yeah, there has been some green purple representation across some of these other tournaments as well.
I
Do
just
you
want
want
to
to sort of,
say, don't speak it down now.
yeah?
I won't accept it.
No,
I won't accept
no,
it.
I'm not going to. Don't worry.
No, I mean there were 2 tempo lists in top 4 in this tournament, so
Yeah,
there are surely some matchups, but I think it's like sometimes a bit misleading in this Voldemort platform that
yes,
are rough, and especially like really like straight lined builds that are rough, and I think that could mislead the power level of some decks just in a wide open field. But yeah, the meta got more diverse, and I think in last week, and if it's like got more diverse, it's also like every deck feels worse. If it gets more
yep,
diverse, like every deck feels worse, because you think like, oh, hopefully it's not that. You only have your bad matchups in mind, and then you like hope it's not that, and then you feel like always like a bit anxious. What's your next opponent is, and that's not a good feeling, of course. But that is kind of true for every deck.
yeah, and just while you're on that's kind of one of those feelings that I was trying to get across with what I said at the start. Is just this the more diverse the metagame is, the more questions are being asked of you simultaneously, and so every deck will feel worse because you can't do all of these things being asked of you. The
Yeah,
more, if you were in if you're in like let's say a 4 deck metagame, what we would call a borderline unhealthy metagame, where you could go to a tournament and realistically expect to only face 4 different decks for the most part. You can prep for that really well. You can reliably sort of understand those matchups in a lot of depth. As soon as you get wider than that, right now I'd say there's at least 8 things that are very playable. You can't cover all bases, so that's where the hope comes in. You are really thinking, I don't want to play against these particular things. And as a result, you feel like your deck is worse, but it's not. Everyone's deck is worse. The point you're making is completely true. It's we're all trying to do more things simultaneously, and that makes all of us feel like our deck has gaps in it.
yeah.
But we have to remember that we're all in the same boat, and it isn't that other people have it much better. Yeah.
And I also playtested a lot Amber Steel Aggro too. Probably not that much than you.
Hmm.
And overall, I think it's of course a very strong deck. But I was a bit less overwhelmed, or how can I say, by the power level than I thought. Because like there are still, I mean, it's a very strong deck on the play, and that's always something that's really good. Of course,
Yeah.
like if you like rarely lose on the play, that's something. It's a good starting point for every deck. But of course, there are some tough matchups and some lines that are just tough to beat, and I think it's still a pretty linear deck, and then you can find answers for that, and the answers, yeah, might then be really good against a pure aggro deck, and yeah, I think it has its spot. It's a very good deck, but it's like, no, I don't think it's unfair. I don't know, maybe I'm
No,
too low on it.
people's problem with that Amber Steel aggro. I think there's 2 things going on. First of all, I would say it's the first time in the game's history we've ever had a tier 1 aggro deck.
Yeah,
Would you agree?
hyper aggro deck,
Yeah,
you could say. Yeah, like
yeah, a tier
yeah,
1 hyper aggro deck.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we've had in the past, well, actually, sort of the fastest decks we've had in the past have been some of the more aggressive green purple builds that at
Mm-hmm.
times have been like tier 1. And run people over with merfolks, those sorts of things. But this is the first kind of hyper aggro deck
Mm-hmm.
that lives in tier 1, and that puts a lot of pressure on people. Like it's asking you to always be able to answer a turn 1
Mm-hmm.
daisy.
Mm-hmm.
It's asking you to have a mixture of like really strong, what I would classify as on-board removals, so things that are going to make you get those good trades early on, like your crabs, your foxes. But you also need the ability to interact with ready things, because late game, when they've turned it all sideways and then they play 2 cards a turn, and you can't afford to let them quest once. So it really warps your deck building. You have to find a way of doing it in like the lightest, least impactful way possible. This isn't a game where we have access to sideboards. In games that do, it's quite easy to tip your matchup against aggro. It generally just takes a couple of pieces of really cheap spot removal / life gain, whatever it would be, to shore up those matchups and make it fine. But for us, it's all in this game where we don't have access to sideboards. It's all about making sure we can realistically answer those things while not completely warping our decks against the slower things. And I think it's really the first time that you've been challenged to do that to an extreme level. So that's one of the feelings that's quite bad for people is, well, right, well, this deck I've loved for ages folds to Triple Daisy opening, so it's not playable. Well, I mean, Triple Daisy opening is going to, on the play, is going to beat pretty much anything. But you're seeing it a lot more, so it's a bad feeling. The other thing is, with it being really linear deck, there's a lot of bad feelings where people like feel they're losing to like quote unquote worse players. And first of all, it's very hard to make an objective judgment about what makes a good or bad player. So it's probably not worth thinking in those terms for anyone. But yeah, you will get run over by players that you see as less experienced than yourself. Like they will draw their linear things and you will fail to draw some of your important answers. So I don't think it's like oppressively powerful. I don't think it's an out of control deck in any way. But I do think there are bad feelings attached to it, and that's what's actually happening right now, is that people don't like a linear, less decision intensive deck winning games over them, and they don't like having to adapt to like a new restriction on their deck building as laid out by having a tier 1 hyper aggro deck. Those things combined are sort of what's really taking up people's headspace, rather than thinking that this aggro deck is the best deck in the format.
Yeah, that was a very good summary. I shortly want to talk about the green purple. One of the green purple lists we got that made top 4. I think it's not too special. It's very close to what I play. No. No.
Wow. Genius deck builder.
No. Yeah, there are some. Yeah, not some. Very many. Like 1-cost replace themselves cards. No. Pegasus. Also 1 Peter Pan only. So I guess he just wanted to. He thought like he has this 4 Diablos and 4 Gogos, also like 4 Diablos, so probably doesn't need more answers. And to be fair, we see less Diablos right now, I think. Well, it's always like hard to say, but at least feels like we see less Diablos right now.
Yeah, I would say so. It's constantly ticking up and down, but right now, not so many.
Yeah, and otherwise, like, it's a solid list, I think. I'm still not sure why you played the Diablo over Sir Hiss or something. I mean, Sir Hiss is just a better card, I think, but I don't know. Like Sir Hiss, you can quest and you can't take him out by Peter Pan and stuff, for example. But maybe it's also like just a prank, like just if you like. That's cool. Yeah, I mean, if he crab kills a daisy, he still lives, and so it has some upsides, but I think that's maybe meaningful.
That's quite important right now, isn't it? Isn't it like if you can have your 2-drop live after being the crab target to take out the daisy?
Yeah, that's not
that can be enough to swing. But I'd probably play Sir Hiss, but that is a very important use case right now.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, I think the rest is pretty standard and well played. I saw him struggling against Red Blue. I don't know if it was him or the other. I saw one of the top 4 matches against Red Blue. And then he had a really awful draw, but that happens. Red Blue is still a very strong deck.
Yeah.
And that shows us, that's what I just meant, what I just realized, that shows us how broken the deck was when Hiram existed. That is absurd. But to be fair, yeah, okay, we had, for a short time, we had both. To be fair, they got at least a slight, it's not the same card, for sure not, but substitution for Hiram is like the new Tamator is a bit like that. Like that's a good source of card draw, at least for them. I think without that Tamator, the deck would really struggle. And that's a kind of a replacement, but not the same as Hiram. And yeah, that shows us how broken, because Red Blue is like a tier 1 deck, I think, still.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things that it didn't get a lot of discussion in the early weeks of the format.
Yeah.
When I referenced a few times, like lots of things being playable, it's in that conversation. It's really feasting on the aggro players, weirdly. Like, it's actually these builds with a ton of Sisus in them can pretty reliably beat the Ambisteel aggro decks even, which is great. And I've seen like faster versions with, back to having a bunch of super goofs, making sure they've got that early interaction, and that has a huge impact on those matchups. Red Blue's still a real contender, and something that something I would consider playing into the format for sure.
Yeah, especially 3-cost Sisu. I mean, both Sisus are just great.
Yeah.
Because also like the Ambisteel deck doesn't have many answers to them. I mean, sometimes they just ink their songs to play more characters, and then they don't. I mean, they can storm this, but at least two of these 3-cost Sisus they can't prevent probably from shifting.
Yeah.
And then, I think one shifted Sisu probably decides the game often. And then, then the Red Blue can close out games then also really fast. So, yeah, for sure. Is there any other deck that you would like to talk about?
I'm just looking back over my list. I think
you want to talk about.
Oh yeah, there are two actually. So first of all, I want to talk about what I would play right now. Talking about making these decisions about like which decks feel good for the moment. I am really, really high on Blurple. I think Blurple is an incredibly strong deck that has certainly been gaining some points from, its old Nightmare matchup was Steel Song. That's what it struggled with. It's a little better into that now in some ways. Like some of these current builds, that matchup's improved a little bit, but it's gained a ton of points from a lot of Ambisteel players switching over to try aggro builds in the short term. And all of its other matchups that were already great have stayed great. Like, I think you can crush a lot of purple mirrors. I'm not too sure I'm just generally very, very high on it. I think it's a super powerful deck into the format. And if we have a look at Danksor's list, I don't know if it's Danzor or Danksor, from the CCS 2K, I take this as a pretty good example of what people are doing right now. There's some sort of creative tech. We don't see a huge amount of Ratigan and Dime. That's new and exciting. But on the whole, like, this is the kind of Blurple list that is really, really strong at the moment. Even into the aggressive stuff. You have your bell openings, and that goes a long way for you. While also having access to a load of the tools. Like, if I was playing right now, like, I'm not a Blurple expert by any stretch of imagination, but I'd probably be on more 5-cost Bell. I think that's a really important tool at the moment for the deck. But I mean, aside from that, it's, you get to run things over with the Argos. It's
Bell is for me one of the most messed up cards in this game. The 3-cost Bell, because it's so stupid. I mean, it's not as I don't say like ban this card or something. I'm just saying it's so stupid how different games are if you open
Yeah.
with Bell or if not. Like, if they don't open with Bell, I feel kind of comfortable with green purple because like they need 2 turns to really get going, and then I can go wide, and it's kind of tough for them sometimes to deal with the whiteboard, and then I can sometimes even on the draw sometimes run away with the game. But if they open Bell, it's like running into a wall, and that's a
Yep.
stupid thing. Like, get this high roll, win the game. Get not this high roll, lose the game. That's stupid. It's not a good design card. That's what I want to say.
No,
That's
it introduces a very high degree of variance, but
yeah.
it's one of those things where the deck has such incredible power into the late game. Like, as soon as you've survived those first few turns, everything is an
Yeah.
incredibly live draw. You never really run out of gas. And you just have this like magic silver bullet that can sometimes mean that you almost certainly survive, like don't get run over in the early game. You've got other tools to help, like, you know, there have been times when this deck hasn't played crab or even hasn't wanted to play foxes because it's not under any pressure in the format in the early game. Now, you know, there are some concessions to that amount of pressure, but Bell still does so much heavy lifting that if you have that, like, that's like the core reason why I like this so much, is that you have a really, really good matchup spread plus a chance for your bad matchups to become fine. I'd take that. I'd take that as a deal. Yeah.
That's I think that's accurate. Yeah. And it's a strong deck for sure.
Yeah. Very.
I'm probably a bit lower than you, but it's that's fair. I think it's a strong deck. You can do nothing wrong to play it, and you can build it you can build it in a way to really bully some decks.
Yes, for sure.
That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it's a deck that a lot of people think of as being like really stock and streamlined. Like, you know, it's just ramp, 4-cost things, but I think there's tons of flexibility, and lots of like underexplored tech that the deck has access to really beat up some matchups. So if you have got like a good read on your local metagame or something for a tournament, it can be tailored really nicely.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds accurate. Yeah. Yeah, if you want to, I think it's also like a cool deck. I think we said it already in the past. It's a cool deck for, I think, people that want to start the game. Because it's, I don't want to say it's easy to play. I think, for example, and maybe we talk about it now. Like, the red-purple matchup is tricky with Blurple, depending on the version of red purple and of Blurple, to be honest. Like, both versions are kind of meaningful into the matchup. I think it has a great matchup into green purple. Tempo, at least it's favored. And also I think against this Ember Steel aggro is one of the best decks you can play. So I think it struggles a bit probably against red blue items, I could imagine.
Yeah. I bet.
But yeah, it's a strong deck. For sure. And no, I'm not one. That's also something we wanted to look today.
Yeah. Well, you've been playing red purple, so I want to get your views on this because it's another deck I'm very high on.
Yeah, red purple is a great deck. It will never not be a great deck. We don't see any. It feels like we don't see any Beyond the Horizons anymore right now. I don't know. I don't see any. So
No.
that's really good news for red purple. I think the shark builds are still the best in my opinion. Because just Peter Pan and shark, the combination is just too strong in my opinion. And for example, like against Blurple, you just play a shark. They need to Hades it. They need to. and then you be prep. They probably overextend then, because like you don't play much, then you play the Shark. They need to play Hades, and then you be prep, and then you most of the time are like very resource ahead. Most of the time, it depends a bit, but it's not easy to say. But against so many decks, a Shark is lights out. It's absolutely crazy. Like for example, against Ember Steel aggro, if you like get to the point, a Shark is unremovable for them, nearly unremovable for them, and then you have this Pirate's Life stuff, and I think Red Purple is also a great deck against, one of the better decks at least, against these Ember Steel aggro decks. And yeah, no, I'm not one again with a pretty standard list. I think I'm not too sure I would like his opinion about this new Hades. I didn't get it since the beginning. I had such an expensive super brick card that doesn't do anything if you're behind. Really nothing if you like face something aggressive. You play another 7 cost unlinkable. Even the 4B preps can sometimes be really bricky. It's not too appealing to me, but I should maybe test it also. Against lower decks, I could see him like be decent sometimes.
Maybe that's your risk. Is it your risk averse nature where you look at a card and you see the absolute worst scenario?
But
it could be in.
As an opponent, are you really? Yeah, maybe it snowballs very much. Yeah, maybe it snowballs very much. But this game is so tempo based often, and if you just play a 7 cost that does nothing, like I think often you want it to be in a Medusa or something. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe I'm also underestimating. Probably I'm underestimating it, and I'm rating him purely on just theory, and that's not good. So I should just test him and not talk nonsense here.
I mean, I've seen both scenarios play out. I've seen a Hades suddenly run away with a game as like a last card in hand, and I've seen it brick up a hand and lose. So it's
probably
there's a good reason it's a one-off. I think it's a decent one-off, but it all comes down to your sort of level of risk appetite and how much you can tolerate something occasionally not being good at all.
The Genie versus Rabbits debate will probably never end, and I'm still on the Rabbit side because I think I can outvalue some matchups, especially Blurple and Red Purple mirror matches. Pretty good with it. And I really like Snake still. I think it's a really good turn 2 play on the play against some aggressive decks. And if you play Snakes, then Rabbit is for sure appealing. I would like to play this out against him, for example. Like in my list, I can show you my list now. There are also like Goat still in, and just more bounce. And I play Rabbits, but then I don't play Finders Keepers. He plays Genies and Finders Keepers, and I think it's kind of the similar thing then. 3 Pirates Life seems right to me. Yeah, I think he knows what he does. I think it's one of the better decks right now. I don't think it's still like this. I don't think you are afraid of any matchup, but you are also not like happy about some matchups. Like you don't think, well, yes, I play against, I don't know. Maybe you feel kind of confident in the mirror match or something, but there's no particular matchup that you think, wow, cool. Yes. Like with some other decks. And that's why I thought I want to shortly talk about something with you. Um, Writing my guide, I thought about some theories I had, and I don't want to make an excuse. That's a cheap excuse to not making top cut or something. But green purple was always like a very adaptive deck, and I think we talked about it like for sure. And red purple also kind of, and 2-game format is really bad for adaptive decks, I think, because like you have more the percentage of games you play blind are more than a 3-game format, of course, obviously. And the blind mulligan with green purple, for example, is tricky because you want against most matchups, against some matchups you want an Ursula and you want a kid. Against some matchups, and not you need. But against some matchups, you really need an aggressive opening. So that's the first dilemma you have in your blind mulligan. And that's something you don't have with some more, how can I say, a straightforward. I don't want to say linear, but like the openings are linear. Like red blue is a linear opening deck. They search the ramp and stuff. Green steel, for example, is also kind of. Yeah, you have multiple lines, but I think you gather them together like you want them now. And sometimes, okay, if you have the morph, then you keep the beast, and if not, then you search for Diablo or something. I don't know. And green purple is in a tricky spot like that in 2-game format, and probably stupid that I first realized that now. I think I realized it all the time, but it's like the first time like I really think in the next season this goes way more into my consideration of deck choices, like at least in 2-game formats. And that's why I think like in like 3-game formats I always like did quite well, and in 2-game formats I really struggled. And I don't want to blame the format. That's not what I want to do. That's really not what I want to do. But I want to analyze it because I think I'm not a bad player, and then I want to improve and make my chances better to reach top cut. And maybe it's just a way to find decks that are kind of linear in at least its blind mulligan.
Yes, and I think you hit a really, really important point there. And I think that what you've said sounds like on some level obvious, but it isn't at all, and it is actually a conclusion that's taken a long time to reach. The decks that people find frustrating or have found frustrating have all generally been quite linear decks. The various things that have been oppressive over the months and years of this game are all reasonably linear, and a lot of people wouldn't connect. They wouldn't see the common thread between amber steel aggro and blue red sisu, right? They wouldn't see that, like, actually both of these decks are gaining incredible points from the fact that there is low fluctuation in the core cards they mulligan for versus a known or unknown opponent. And that's when you're in 2-game format, that's really, really very, very big. Like you say, 50% of your games are against an unknown opponent versus like well, it's not
a third.
33%.
Yeah, not this. Yeah, it's a bit.
It's not exactly a third because you don't always go to game 3.
Yeah.
But it's a massively different thing. And the other thing you have to consider is it's not just 2-game format. It's tournament size and structure as well. If you go to a 30-person set championship, for example, and you can skill gap your first 2 rounds, you can then scout the top 8 tables or so, and immediately have a full view of what everyone's playing.
That's true.
You will from that point on, there are no more unknown opponents. You can make good mulligan decisions in the dark, or in the dark, which you're not because you've worked out what people are playing. So I think there's a lot to be said for that. These adaptive decks gain a lot of points versus known opponents. Again, the most level 1 take ever. It's like a deck that can adapt is better when it knows what it's adapting to. But it's so valuable and worth knowing.
It's some people might hear this and think, are they stupid? But it's not that obvious that you might think. It's like
yeah.
It's not that obvious, I
Yeah,
think.
and it's that's the core of why I don't like 2-game format. I think it's a format I can get on with, but I like to be making heads-up decisions versus a known opponent. Yeah, and that's where I sort of find my best edges. But if I was going to play a DLC today, and I knew it was a 1,000 person huge hall, with like 1,000 to 2,000 players, with 9 rounds of 2-game format, at 50% of my games unknown opponent, I would play something where I felt that the cards I was mulliganing for, I could confidently do it in the dark. I don't, and green purple is like one of the ones that actually has like some of the greatest variation, because there are aggressive mulligans. There are cards that you need to aggressively mulligan for that are absolutely terrible in a ton of matchups. And have to be inked, and your ability to adapt the game plan is like what the deck lives and dies by. There have been so many games in the dark against an unknown opponent. I've thought, you know what, like 75% of the time, I want to be going for this aggressive opening. I'll mulligan for it, and then they go, all right, then turn 1 Cindy, and I go, cool. I have completely mulliganed for the wrong thing. I needed to aggressively mulligan for my Ursula. I did not know that. I did not find one by chance, and now the game's outcome is massively different. Yeah, all of that to say, I think knowing the structure of the tournament you're going to would massively impact your ability to like that should impact your deck choice completely. Like, but 2-game format versus best of 3 and size of field, both massively important factors. And when in doubt, I would defer to something with a pretty linear mulligan strategy. Yeah, which is again where I think like some decks that you might consider reactive because they play a more controlling game type like blue-red, actually, as long as you find like a piece of cheap removal and a ramp card and maybe something for your mid game like a Maui or a Shark or one of your Talers, something like that, you're good. You can adapt on the fly from there, but for the most part, that's fine.
Yeah. Listeners, that doesn't mean I want to bash on green purple, okay? It's just a really important observation. And I also wrote it in my guide. Like, doesn't mean like the deck is not good for 2-game format. It's just, I just want to say, like, think about that fact that it is like that, and maybe adjust your deck building by that. For example, like I think 3 1-drop opening in green purple, for example, is a very appealing thing to me because it's like it's good against aggro and it's good against control too, because it's like a lot of pressure, like something like that. Yeah, that's such things. That's just more things I even want to how can I say, like, see more in the future, even about green purple, to have the blind stuff more in mind. I think I overlooked that a bit, and maybe we can all learn a bit. Yeah.
Just what you were saying there, 1-drops I think are a really, really good like thing to look at specifically when thinking about that in a green purple context. Because let's take a card like Pegasus. Pegasus to me is one of those cards that I would say is like polarized in the mulligan sometimes. There are some matchups where you're really, really happy to have one, and some where you just think, I wish this was any other 1-drop. So looking back to like the lists that were successful this weekend, very like they have a density of 1-drops. There's a high enough number of them that they are wanting to go for this 1-drop and then 2 1-drops on turn 2 in a lot of situations. But they're all just 1-drops that redraw plus Merfolk. So that's a big case for playing a higher density of those redraw one drops versus situational stuff like Pegasus, because they're largely the same in every matchup. You're never mad at seeing like a bunch of Diablos, Brooms, and followers versus the fact you're sometimes mad at Pegasus, right? So if you make your deck nice and flat like that, higher sort of, more things that are better in more situations, which is the really frustrating part of it, is that is like the exact opposite of toolbox thinking. If you like a toolbox deck, is you play a variety of cards that are exceptional in some situations and worse in others. And what I'm advocating for there is like the exact opposite of don't think and build that way. But that's only in a specific huge format, huge arena 2-game format sort of environment. I would consider thinking more that way, because you're going to have to make so many more decisions in the dark. So it's better to have less variance in what you've got in your deck and in your mulligan decisions.
Yeah. Makes total sense. So interesting sometimes what a card game, how much depth a card game can have. We're just playing a card game.
Sure.
It's really cool. Yeah. You also wanted to, or we wanted to talk, or what did you not want to talk about something else?
I think we've mostly covered what I wanted to go through. I was just like, I wanted to think at a high level about like what a deck needs to do to succeed right now, and I would basically characterize it as you have to be able to respond to a daisy quickly. You have to be able to interact with ready characters, as well as having a few cards that open up great trades. So that's like things with rush and crab type effects. So really powerful swingy onboard effects. I really think you need a nice, clean way of dealing with Iago. I think that decks that don't do that will be punished by it. You need a way of removing Shark, and you need to be adaptive enough so that you can provide a fast clock against the very slow decks.
That's a task. That's a task. Yeah.
It's a tough thing. You generally won't be able to do all of them, but I think that there are a lot of decks capable of doing many. And it's interesting. It's like decks like Green Steel are like, actually, they don't do as many of those as you might think. And might go some way to explaining why they have been less represented than everyone thought they'd be at the start. I don't know enough about it to say that's for sure, but as long as a deck can do most of those things reliably, I'm pretty happy with it. And I think you can't go too far wrong in this metagame in terms of like your color choice, but you need to be thinking in terms of all the different pressures being put on your deck and how you can prepare for as many of them as possible, because this is a wide format. The level 1 is you need to beat aggro, but there are a lot of levels that come after that you also need to do. So that's why I'm like really comfortable with things like Blurple and Red Purple, is they adaptive but have like strong openings. I would side with Blurple for my pick right now, because it has easier mulligans in the dark. As long as I've got a ramp effect and a genie, I don't care what I'm playing against. I'll work it out from there, and then make better decisions when I've got information. But that was like all I wanted to cover off. But I think we mostly did that through the discussion of the different decks. Lots of stuff is playable. I don't know how much you could rely on beating all of it, but maybe there's something out there. Maybe we'll see at Worlds.
I'm really curious what will be in Worlds. I think it's a really tough spot they are in. I really think it's a tough spot they are in. I think it will also like. I mean, that's always like the case in a high competitive field, like that is always like a good amount of luck needed. But I think just for even the just matchups and stuff, there's a lot of luck involved, I think. if all players are good prepared. What would your guess be? What is the most banned color? It's probably still steel, right?
Yeah, I would have to guess steel. And related to this, actually, I had last week we talked about like what just our general thoughts on the world's format. I had this other thought, which is a little bit more cynical, which is this is probably I don't even know what this conversation isn't going anywhere. It's just a thought that I want to put out
Yeah.
into the world, so people have to listen to it now because they're listening to the video. My thought is it's this like conquest format, as people are calling it, the 3-deck format, is so smart from a tournament organizer's point of view, looking back on what happened at the start of set 7. So when last set if we'd had worlds at the start of set 7, pre-banning, there wasn't it came before the date fell before the emergency banning, it would be a very bad thing for Ravensburger to have this tournament where everyone essentially played one of 2 decks, potentially just one deck. This format they've gone with, I actually didn't even consider how it guarantees diversity for viewers, and in terms of at a bare minimum there will be 3 decks, even if everyone played the exact same combination with the exact 60s within them. It enforces variety, which is really good in terms of optics for making the game appear balanced. And it also, the banning of one deck means that if there is one thing that is wildly oppressive, it won't show up on camera too
that's
much
good. Yeah,
because
that's
people will ban it.
yeah.
So from a tournament organizer's point of view, it's a very, very smart move. But I mean, as a viewer, it means you have to take what you're seeing with a pinch of salt. You want to you want to look and see like the absolute pinnacle of competitive play with incredibly smart deck building, and you're going to look at this and think, what deck can I take to my set championships? I'm going to take something from Worlds. These are the best of the best.
No.
There are things going on that mean that you might not want to copy any of these decks. They definitely won't be bad, but they're being built for a format that is not reflective of what you're playing at home. And yeah, that's a bit of a negative for it, I think.
That's for sure negative for me. That it's like, I think it's still not. I think that people over how can I say it? Compared too much with Hearthstone. I think there were like some really 0% matchup, and here it's like still, I think the worst matchups are still like, I don't know, 35% or something. I don't know what's the worst matchups are. And then you can't just checkmate someone with some weird deck choices. I think that's not possible in Lorcana in this variance game I mean, you to some extent you can for sure, but I would be surprised if we see some really weird decks winning.
Yeah.
There will be still some solid decks, but of course, like if you, for example, like if you say like you just said, like if you ban steel, you can. Do you know what cards I could all play if steel didn't exist? Oh my gosh, there were
Yeah. A lot of very good ones.
Yeah, and I can make steel not exist. I can just make it. And then it's weird, like if you say like, oh, I will for sure ban steel, and I then play a lot of like 1 health characters, or I don't know, and then they show up with, you play against red steel. Do you ban that? That's weird. Like you think it's probably not the best deck of these 3, but it's like it has steel in it, so I think there's a lot of cool decisions. I wonder if someone makes this, because like this is for me the level 1 choice. Like I ban steel, everyone bans steel, and then you just say, okay, you want to ban steel, but then I play the worst steel deck. So like you have still the decision to ban it, but it's like the worst of the steel decks, and it's a lot of cool things that you could possibly do there. Like yeah. I think
Are you
will be yeah.
are you doing like a viewing party or anything for Worlds with your team or anything like that?
I don't know. I tell you, that's a deep psychology now.
Okay.
I so weird to say. I don't know if I can watch it. Not because I don't have time, because I'm too sad, and it breaks my heart a bit to watch it. And I know that's weird. But it's like I will probably still watch it, but I don't want to plan something. Oh, cool!
Mm,
We watched the Worlds, because I'm still feeling sad to not be able to be there. But of course, yeah, maybe it's weird to say, but maybe I didn't deserve it this year, but still I'm feeling bad for it. Yeah, to because that was still something I really would love to. Our
mm.
experience in the European Championship would make me so excited what happens there with like this 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 food we got and stuff. We felt like VIPs. And yeah, and sometimes I think, I was one game away from reaching top cut, and then not one
Mm.
match, one game, and then I feel just sad and really sad. And I would love to play there. I would love to play in this format, and then I think, it feels sad just for me. I don't know if you feel sad about it.
Um, yes, I do. Yeah, I do feel sad about it, but I think the way my mind works is kind of, or at least what I'm trying to do is to separate my experience from what I'm seeing. Um, it's like it's done. I'm not there this time, but I can make decisions now that I'm not saying it's like, oh, I better watch Worlds so I learn loads of things, and then next year I can qualify for Worlds. But it's like I'm in the next chapter now. I'm just thinking about like next year. I really want to be there, and this year is done,
Mm-hmm.
and no choice that I make now will change the outcome
Yeah,
of that
that's
of this
absolutely
year.
true.
Um, that's the outcome, and it is what it is. I am sad to not be there. I would love to be playing, but all I can do now is try to get myself there next year. And
Yeah.
I think that we're also very lucky in that we have friends that are playing there. We've
Mm-hmm.
been lucky enough to like be part of this community for a long time and to build like some quite strong bonds with some of these players that are going. And I want to be able to just like at least root for my friends. Like
Yeah. Yeah,
I
of
was thinking about it
course.
last week. Like we last Friday, we on Friday we played like Mario Kart on stream with some viewers and some community people, and it was really really fun. And we were playing with Luke
Yeah.
Wonderland, and he's such an awesome dude.
He's
And I just
awesome.
find him like I find him so funny all the time. Like, it makes me laugh, and he's like so chill to talk to, but also so smart about the game. And I was just thinking, man, I really hope this dude wins Worlds. Like I
Yeah, that would be
would
great. Yeah, that would
like
be really great.
it's not it's so awesome to
Yeah.
be able to like get
Yeah,
behind
that's
someone
true.
like
Yeah.
that, and I would love for that to happen. And I know that like if it came down to it and he was in the final or something, I'd really be like on the sidelines. Like I'd want to,
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Yeah.
wouldn't want to miss that for anything. So
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's
yeah,
for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm trying to focus on that a little bit, but I'm definitely sad about it. It's a shame to miss out, but we can't change that now.
Yeah,
What's done
that's
is
true.
done, and
That's true.
all we can do is try to
Get
find some
better.
fun.
Get better.
Exactly. You can't do anything but get good. Just get good,
Don't cry.
and
Get
then you
good.
can. Yeah, exactly. Like you won't learn anything now from not experiencing that, but also like what your perspective is totally valid as well. Like if something upsets you and makes you feel bad and you don't have a lot to personally gain from engaging with it, like it's also fine to not engage with it. Like you can be kind to yourself. You don't have to look at the thing that makes you sad. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
totally
That's
allowed.
yeah. I know,
Totally allowed.
but yeah, I can also improve in my in my how can I say, my personality, and
Your personality. We're gonna work on your
and
personality.
no, I think like you said, like see it from another view, see it like okay, I can change it, and it's still interesting Lorcana to see, and there's a lot of players like Wonderland or Sailor or I can't say everyone now who I would really love to win this, and or Zach Bivens or someone. There's so many players I would really love to win this, and I would really be happy for them. And yeah, next year is another chance for me. Although it's tricky next year because I'm in Japan, and I don't know how the tournament structure will be. Like if the Grand Prix that are there like will qualify for Worlds. I don't know how they will.
I would guess they would. Yeah,
Yeah, I think they
I
will
thought the plan
probably.
was within a year to have unified the formats as well.
And even if not, it could still be. Maybe it's a bit weird, but even if I play in another format, it could still qualify for Worlds. Then you have to play in
Yeah, yeah.
another format. Maybe that's. Yeah, let's see what happens. Maybe I also fly to an Australian DLC or something. Let's see what
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, that'd be very doable.
Yeah. Um, yeah. I just want to shortly still add to that, like we made the community event, the Mario Kart. We just shortly talked about it. It was a pleasure. It was great. It was so much fun. Thanks for everyone who was part of it. It was such a great. I think we will do it again. It was so much
Yeah.
fun, and it was like, yeah, it was great to bully everyone with a blue shell and stuff. It was very much fun. Although we hated each other all the time, but it was very much. It was so much fun. Really, I had really a lot of fun. Time flight. It was great. Or what would you say? Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah.
But next time you gotta try, man. You didn't put up a lot of competition for me.
I just wanted to not say it, but yeah, Steve won, LD won 4 out of the 10 races, and he won the giveaway. I have it here already. Still here. I must send it to you. He won this signed gold. Next time if we do it, I get another giveaway. So please be a part of it, because we weren't exactly like 24 players. We wanted to reach 24
Yeah, we had
players.
gaps, yeah.
Yeah. So sadly not completely. Next time we could maybe fill the last spots out. Yes.
Yeah.
Last thing for me, I finished my guide over the weekend, and I will release it like this. If you hear it, it will be already released, probably on Wednesday. I just want to shortly say, because it was a lot of work, and I hope you like it. As you know, it's really important for me to not like over hype some things. I want to be like honest, and think Green Purple is still a great deck, really, and especially for set championship is always a great choice. And I think looking forward to after rotation, it has a lot of resilience to rotation stuff. And I made this time really much effort and made a like video for every matchup with my wife playing the matchup. And yeah, it's a lot more stuff than in the past. And yeah, I will release it on Wednesday. Just want to shortly mention it, and you can get it on my MetaFi. And yeah, and I hope you like it. Yes. Okay. I think we're done. Or do you have anything? Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
It's an interesting time to be in the game, where everything feels powerful but nothing does, and
yeah, it's like it changes every week, and then I think like because like last week, and it will come back. Like last week, I thought like, oh, Green Purple is the thing. Yeah, Green Purple is the thing. This format, and then suddenly some decks come up that bully on it a bit, like too much Blurple. And then I think, sad, but it's still a good deck, and it could change in a week that we see less Blurples again, and then it's
It can
like
change in a day.
Yeah, it could change
It's
in a
moving
day.
so fast.
But it's like that's just what I want to point out. It's a great deck. It's obviously great to work on it. It will always be like a. There's a lot of in this guide like this time a lot of like general TCG things, not like too straight line and too green purple. So I think there's something to take away for anyone. But I still want to be like, I don't say, buy this guide because like it's green purple is busted and it can't be beaten by anything. That would be just stupid. Okay. I think we're done, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Good.
Thanks for everyone for watching. Till next week. And then next week it will be the week before Worlds. So we maybe make a Worlds prediction episode. That would be really cool, I think.
That'd be fun. See. We can maybe get a little competition going or something. And
or we both build 3 decks. We both build 3 decks and show them. That would be also really cool.
Let's do that.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we could do that.
That's a really good idea. Let's do that. We'll both build what our World's Gauntlet would be, and then we'll talk through them and compare them. Great idea. Let's do it.
And then say, it's good that we are not there with these bad decks.
Yeah, because this would be like a O2 drop bracket type deck. Imagine dropping in Worlds. You just drop from like a 24-person field and just go off into Disneyland and start just queuing up the ride.
And your round 3 opponent plays for like $40,000 or something. Yeah. Okay. Thanks everyone for watching. Till next time, and bye-bye.
Yep. Bye.